You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by the National Association of Convenience Stores.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is Jeff Leonard. I'm with the National Association of Convenience Stores, and we are going to spend a little time talking about the future and how it is the present today.
I'm John Eichberg with the Fuels Institute NACS, and Convenience Matters talks about the things that power you, power your life, power your car, power your body. Half of America goes to convenience stores every single day, so what happens at convenience stores happens in your life.
So today what we want to talk about is we want to talk about what the future of convenience retailing may be. And I have an Amazon Echo at home. And so last night I tested it out. I said, hey, Alexa, what's Amazon Go? And apparently they haven't clued her in. She didn't really know. So we have our guest today, Kevin Coop. He's the content guy from Morning Newsbeat, and he stays tuned to all the retail trends. And Kevin's going to talk a little bit about Amazon Go, how it affects the future of retailing. So welcome today, Kevin.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So you can answer what Amazon Go is better than Echo, I presume. What if you were Alexa, how would you describe it?
Well, the interesting question is, would if you were sitting in Seattle and asked Alexa what Amazon Go was, would she be able to tell you? And your audience may not even know what Alexa is. And Alexa is essentially because I think it's important to provide background, because I think it does fit. Alexa is part of this system that Amazon has developed, that it's basically voice-activated computing. So you have a cylinder on your desk, and you can ask Alexa thousands of things, everything from the weather to ask about the news, sports scores, lots of different things, and it will Alexa will provide that information. But the most important thing Alexa does from Amazon's perspective is it allows you to buy. It allows you to say, Alexa, I'm out of Doritos and Diet Coke, and it will place that order for you. And in places where Amazon delivers, you could get it within an hour or two. So that's what Alexa does. Amazon Go is this new concept they are developing. It's funny. You said the future of retailing. Well, in Seattle, it's actually the present. It is a concept they have developed in Seattle, downtown. It's called Amazon Go. It's about 1,800 square feet. And the concept is it is a convenience store without checkout lines. So they have developed a technology that they call just walk out technology, which uses a combination of what they call computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion. I have no idea what any of that means, except the idea is that you walk into the store and you use an app on your smartphone that gives you entrance to the into the store. And from there, you can pick things up and put them in a bag. And apparently, it knows exactly what you're doing and what you're putting in your bag. And when you're done, you walk out. Some of your listeners may remember that something like 15 years ago, IBM did a commercial, and it actually took place in a supermarket. And it had a guy in a big coat who looked kind of disheveled, walking around the store, just shoving things in his pockets. People are keeping an eye on him. Security guards keeping an eye on him. As he walks out of the store without going to the checkout, the security guard comes up behind him and says, "Excuse me, sir." The guy turns. The guy says, "You forgot your receipt." And the notion then, 15 years ago, was that using RFID technology, presumably empowered by IBM, you were no longer going to have to sit through and go through the checkout line at a supermarket. What's remarkable is it's taken all these many years, and it has taken Amazon to actually make this work, apparently. Now, right now it's in test. They're only doing it with Amazon employees, but it's supposed to open in early 2017 to the public. By the way, the app doesn't cost anything as far as we know. As I said, it's 1,800 square feet. It's going to have a limited assortment. It looks like a fair amount of food service, prepackaged, pre-wrapped food service types items. It's a really interesting concept in the sense that it's trying to get rid of the part of the experience, the shopping experience in almost any location, certainly C-stores, supermarkets, that people hate. People hate standing in line to check out. It sort of ends the experience on a downer. I think if I've seen the numbers correctly, it's roughly 1/3 of the time somebody spends in a convenience store is spent checking out, something like that. Do I have that number correct? It's somewhere in there.
You have it exactly right. Now that means 3 minutes total, and 1 minute of that is checkout or pay.
And imagine if you can get rid of that. if you can end the experience in a much more pleasant fashion. Now we can talk about clearly there are going to be a lot of challenges. Clearly it's not going to go smoothly on day one, but it is a really interesting concept, and it is frankly just like Amazon to sort of say, okay, we're going to try something completely new and different and see what happens and see if we can change the retail paradigm in any kind of significant way.
So basically, the way that you're describing this and the way Amazon's described this, Kevin, is there's going to be eyes watching you the entire time and basically talking to your app and saying, you grab this, you grab that, you grab that. No sensors required, no pre-coding, no sticking RFID tags on the items. It basically is an all-seeing eye watching what you're doing. Is that what we're looking at here?
Well, aside from the fact that you just made it sound really, really creepy.
That's my job.
But in fact, there are things we don't know. We for example, we don't know at this point whether manufacturers are going to be required to do anything on their packaging to make this work. They're not talking about that yet. And I haven't been able to figure out yet how it's going to work that way. RFID tags famously, just cost a few cents, but a few cents on enough products, and suddenly it makes a difference. We don't exactly know how that's going to work in the store. But yeah, it's all sensors and algorithms, and according to them, and I don't completely understand this because I'm hardly a technical genius, but they say that the technology they're using in the store is actually similar to the technology used for self-driving cars. And now I don't get that connection necessarily, but somebody much smarter than I would be able to look at that and say, oh, okay, we can take this and make it work over here. And I was just reading a story the other day, I think at Fast Company, about how listen, self-driving cars, 2017, that's when we're going to start seeing them on the road. Clearly, all this stuff is happening. And it takes companies like Amazon to sort of see, okay, how can we apply things in a new way to make it work for the consumer?
And I like the way you backed up our original conversation, Kevin, in saying that Alexa is also part of this equation. People have advocates for the company at their home now and their machines. And there are also advocates for the company that are human beings. And what this is doing is it's kind of building that infrastructure almost to a certain extent like what Apple did with iTunes, where it was getting the songs and then getting the things in their people's hands, whether it's the iPhone, iPad, iPod, all of those. So it's a little bit the same way, sure, where it's not just straight retail play.
Exactly. And I mean, the thing whether you're competing with Amazon or you are supplying product to Amazon, or even, quite frankly, if you're a customer of Amazon, the most important word that one has to keep in mind when thinking about that company is the notion that they are trying to create an ecosystem. Now, and compare that, for example, to, say, Walmart and Jet, which are, Walmart spends $3.3 billion for Jet. It seems to be working in the early stages, but all they really want to do is sell more stuff. That's their goal, and it's very linear that way. Amazon is thinking in a much more expansive way about the marketplace. They are trying to create an ecosystem whereby it is going to be the first best choice whenever the consumer is thinking about buying, well, pretty much anything, and they're not even thinking it in terms of, one of their mantras is, we don't want to sell people stuff. We want to make it easier for them to buy stuff. And that's not just a semantic difference. That is really starting with the customer as opposed to starting with their goal, which is to sell more stuff. So whether you look at it in terms of the Amazon website, whether you look at it in terms of Alexa, if you look at it in terms of the Kindle, if you look at it with the Fire TV, you start to see what they're doing is they're trying to just make it in any way, shape, or form. Whenever you're thinking about buying anything, you think you need something, you just go on Amazon and check. Now, you might not always do it on Amazon, but they're going to try and appeal to you in every possible way. And you extend that out, what is Amazon Prime except a way of extending their ecosystem? because you spend $99 a year for Prime, and basically that entitles you to 2-day shipping. It's not free shipping. It's 2-day shipping that you pay $99 a year for. Well, if I only buy one thing from Amazon, it's the most expensive shipping I'll probably ever pay for in my life. But if I buy 99 things from Amazon, and I wish to God I lived in a household where we only bought 99 things a year on Amazon, but if you spend, 99, 199, 299, it becomes the cheapest shipping you've ever paid for. And it encourages you in that way. Every time I think I need paper towels, I need detergent, I need cookies, I need this, I need that. What am I going to do? I'll check Amazon, see what the prices are like. Don't always do it, but I'm always encouraged to come back to them. It's why they have subscribe and save. We're in a wide variety of categories, okay? Thousands and thousands of items. I can set up automatic fulfillment as a consumer. So once a month, and once every 2 months, once every 3 months, 6 months, whatever it happens to be, I can get the stuff delivered to my house. I don't even have to place the order.
So, Kevin,
I don't have to, and those are all items I don't have to go to the store for anymore.
Thinking about that, understanding the desire for world domination that Amazon's pursuing here, from the brick and mortar.
Again, a little creepy the way you put it, but okay.
Well, I have been recently described as a curmudgeon, so we'll go ahead and go with that. It works for me. Do you envision an application once this starts? It gains some testing, it starts gaining some viability. Is this something that you would anticipate them to keep proprietary to themselves and start opening up their own stores, or would it be something they license out to other retail formats to employ for their customers?
That's a really good question, and the honest answer is I don't know. I've always argued on Morning News Beat that I don't think Amazon necessarily wants to, it wants to have 2,000 stores, 3,000 stores. And every you always see these, stock analysts, and they're out there saying, oh, yeah, they're going to have 2,000, 3,000 stores. Sometimes it comes from real estate speculators. Sometimes it comes from analysts who want to get their names in the Wall Street Journal. When Radio Shack looked like everything was going to fold, there are all these people out there saying, wow, Amazon ought to buy all the Radio Shack stores. It's like, yeah, well, right. That's exactly the kind of problem Amazon has done its level best to stay away from in the years since it's been in business. That said, I think you could have hundreds of stores, but some of them might be Amazon Fresh stores, which are more like grocery stores. Some of them might be Amazon Go stores, which would be more like convenience stores. They already have a number of Amazon bookstores. I suspect you'll see those in specific kinds of locations where it makes sense. It's interesting. So the Amazon bookstores have tended to be built in the shadow of college campuses, because they just work really well in those kinds of locations. So in Seattle and in San Diego and places like that, that's where they put them. Well, the Amazon Go convenience store concept would work great in those kinds of locations. So I think you will see more of them. I do think it's entirely possible that Amazon could end up being a vendor and could end up providing this kind of technology to other companies. My guess would be that it would make more sense for them to do it on a selective basis. In other words, not just be willing to sell it to anybody who's willing to write the check. I would think that it makes more sense for Amazon to pursue it in terms of strategic partnerships. So maybe, listen, there are a lot of convenience stores around the country where they have Amazon lockers already. They've already started to develop relationships in that way. Could they go to those kinds of stores and say, hey, listen, we got an idea? And license to them, so they're not absorbing all of the problems, as well as the advantages, but all of the problems that can come with a brick and mortar unit. Sure, I think that's possible, and it strikes me as being more likely than opening thousands of stores on their own. But, the one thing I consistently find is that when I think Amazon is going to do something, they often surprise me. So it's hard to say. But I think that's probably a pretty good bet.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the Amazon locker. Here in the D.C. area, 7-Eleven has Amazon lockers. There's a number of 7-Elevens in the area, and it makes a lot of sense. If you're in a downtown area and you don't have a house, you're in an apartment, you're away from home for a big part of the day, you can go there, you can pick up your items, and you don't have to worry about them not being there after they've been delivered before you get home. Now, let me throw out a question. And thinking about this whole idea that Amazon, when this announcement came out, Amazon Go was called a convenience store.
Right.
Should that be considered a compliment because convenience stores are the cool kids? Or should convenience store retailers say, whoa, they just stuck a flag specifically in our turf?
It's funny as you say that. I'm trying to remember when I read the press release, but I guess I'm thinking in the video that I saw. And by the way, your audience should go to YouTube and go type in Amazon Go if they have not seen the roughly 4-minute video that explains how this works. It'll blow your mind. It just will.
It is incredible.
If you're having trouble understanding what we're talking about here, that's a great resource. It'll show you how it works. And I guess they do call it a convenience store. I don't think. Listen, I think if I were in the convenience store business, I would see this as a definite threat. But the one thing you can always count on is Amazon probably does not see the industry the same way that traditional convenience store operators will see it. In other words, they're not thinking. They may think of a convenience store as having entirely different attributes than your audience it necessarily thinks about it. For example, and I don't know the answer to this question, but I didn't see in the video any tobacco. Will they, which could create problems for them, right? Because you can't have people, just anybody walking in taking tobacco. What if you're underage? There's all sorts of legalities there. So could they walk away from something that is still a decent piece of the pie for many convenience stores? Could they just say we don't want to be in that business?
Or any age-restricted products?
What will they do with alcohol?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question. When Tesco was opening small, and they weren't convenience stores, but they were very small grocery stores down in Southern and Northern California, called Fresh and Easy, which they ended up selling because it ended up being a debacle. They had self-checkouts, which is a very different kind of thing. And then the only thing you had to go through a traditional checkout for was alcohol. So maybe, who knows? Maybe for alcohol, they actually do have a line. Again, it's only when we're able to actually get into the thing to look at it that we're going to know exactly how this is going to play out. And it could be different in different markets.
Jeff, it's funny. Kevin said that the Amazon probably views the convenience market very different than the convenience market views itself. Yeah, Big Brother viewed its subjects a lot differently, and the subjects viewed themselves too. All that being said, I think that whether this technology is restricted to Amazon proprietary stores or is rolled out across the market, that's going to take some more time. There are lessons here for the convenience retailers to think about. Amazon's trying to accelerate speed of service, trying to enhance convenience on the shopping occasion, things that the convenience industry has kind of dominated for about 40 years. There are things that we need to be thinking about as retailers. How can we up our game? And if you think about that, this industry has always responded very aggressively and positively when faced with a challenge that could disrupt their business. And I think there may be some lessons here. Kevin, from your perspective, what if you were a convenience retailer and you were looking at Amazon Go, other than the what's happening, what would you be thinking about as you see what they're trying to accomplish here?
Well, I would urge folks not to think of it in terms of what they're doing in that store. I would think about the fact that they've also gotten into the business in a lot of markets, urban markets, 1 hour delivery. They've gotten in which they for a small fee, and then they'll do 2 hour delivery for free if you're a member of Prime. They do Fresh with Amazon Fresh. Hasn't been as big a deal as I think they would have thought a few years ago, but it's an area they continue to work at. So they're trying to redefine convenience in lots of different ways. So maybe I'm ordering it online and maybe I'm going to get it in 2 days. Maybe I'm ordering it online or using a mobile app and I'm going to get it in 2 hours, or I'm going to get it in 1 hour, or I'm going to be able to go down to the store and not have to go through a checkout line. Maybe if I'm in a relatively rural market, I'm going to order it and they're going to have a drone deliver it to me. One of the things that they're trying to do is they're actually taking more control than ever over the delivery process, saying, listen, we're not going to just depend on UPS and FedEx and God help us, the U.S. Postal Service, to deliver our stuff. We want to own more of that than we have in the past because we don't want to give up that part of the customer experience if we don't have to. So, they're not just thinking about, okay, we got to have a cool store on the corner where people are going to be able to get convenience items very quickly. They're thinking of it in terms of a broader, a much broader canvas. And by the way, to go back to something you said a second ago, it's not just Amazon. I mean, there's just been a story, I think in the Christian Science, not the Christian Science Monitor, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, about how Panasonic is developing an automated system that will allow that won't need a checkout person. It actually, you just kind of push the basket into this machine, and it scans everything, deposits everything in the basket, and then you pay. That Panasonic is testing in Japan. I'd be willing. It seems to me like a pretty good bet, and I have. I'm not sure if there were any of these guys at the most recent NACS show, but 2 years from now, I'll bet you'll have a whole section of companies offering self-checkout and automated checkout and no checkout options, because this is going to light a lot of fires in a lot of different places as people are going to try and figure out another angle on this in the event Amazon doesn't decide to license it out or doesn't license it out to everybody, doesn't make it available to everybody. So I think it's critical to think about the notion of convenience in a different sort of way. I mean, there's not a convenience store, but you got even Dunkin' Donuts now, right? I mean, which is doing things in certain areas. They're testing delivery. In certain markets, they're testing the idea of curbside pickup. And everything's being done through the mobile app, so people don't actually have to get out of their cars and go into the store. So that's what I'd be thinking about. I'd be thinking about, how do I figure out what consumer convenience really means to the consumer, as opposed to how we have typically defined it as a company or as an industry. Because I think those definitions are changing, will continue to change as all of our kids who have grown up not understand and can't remember a time when there was no Amazon.com. Can't remember a time when they didn't have a smartphone and didn't have a laptop. As they become the center of the target, I think expectations will change entirely. My argument has always been it's not like our kids are suddenly going to turn 30 or 35 and decide, what I really want to do is wear polyester, drive a minivan, and listen to oldie stations.
Jeff, we've been talking.
They're going to carry the same expectations that have been formed over a number of years, and by the way, that we all funded, so we have nothing to complain about. And they're going to have those expectations, and they're going to want to apply it to everything. Jeff,
we talked about generational shifts affecting the fuels and vehicles markets too, so it goes hand in hand. So,
yeah, and finally, just a couple of things to wrap up, Kevin. First off,
can I stop you a second? You just said something interesting, and I would imagine at some level, and this totally gets off the topic, but it certainly falls into the notion of innovation. If convenience stores sell, 80% of the fuel in this country?
Yes.
Is the number something like that?
Yes.
If convenience stores sell 80%, what do you do if you have a whole bunch of young people who have decided that they're going to put off some of the life decisions that people used to make in their 20s and early 30s? So they don't own a house, they don't own a car, maybe don't own a car, don't have kids, they don't need a bigger car. It shifts what their generational needs are. And so it seems to me that when you think about how generations think differently, whether it's about going to the convenience store or putting gas in their cars or whatever it happens to be, you have to think of it in this rapidly changing sort of a marketplace where nothing potentially, and not to oversell it, but potentially nothing is going to be the same 5 to 10 years from now.
Yeah, and a couple final thoughts. First off, Kevin, thank you for plugging the 2018 NACS show. Registration opens in 18 months or so. So, guys, just mark your schedules. It's going to be in October. It's going to be in Las Vegas.
To be a speaker. That's my plug. There you go. We'll see if I was right.
Okay, then we'll consider that done. The second couple other final points is what labor is a big issue for any retailer, and what they've done is they've switched the equation. This isn't about addressing one of their issues; it's about solving one of your problems. problems. So it's not about how do you address labor, but how do you address checkout lines? And the other thing is I think they brilliantly announced this over the holiday season. And for anybody who stood in line in the 2016 holiday season, you totally get at what they're coming from with trying to reduce those checkout lines. When I watched the end of the video, and I'll say what I would have said if I were Alexa and I were asked about Amazon Go, I'd just simply say, it's the future, pay attention.
That did not make me comfortable, Jeff.
It will.
Well, but it's interesting, it's interesting, and I think that different companies. I'm glad you mentioned labor because I should have talked about that earlier. One of the things that, and it's going to be different for different segments of retail, but one of the things companies I think are going to have to decide is if they were to adopt, and whether it's self-checkout or whether it's no checkout or automated checkout or whatever it happens to be. When you adopt systems like that and you come at it from a different approach, okay, do I just as a retailer view this as a way of cutting down my labor costs, which lots of people do, and usually the vast majority of companies say, oh man, I can get rid of those people. That would be great. I mean, that's one of the things that oft quoted. The nominee to be Secretary of Labor has said, "Listen, I love automation. They don't call in sick. They never show up late, and they never file discrimination suits. That automation is terrific." But I guess what I think companies ought to think about is, okay, maybe I don't have to redeploy everybody, but do I find my best people and find a way to make them play a different role in the store? So no, they're not necessarily behind the, scanning things, putting things in a bag, checking people out. But is there a way they can be in the store and playing a different kind of role that helps the consumer connect to that retail experience in a different kind of way? Now, that is perhaps less important in a convenience store than it might be in a supermarket where there are, 20 aisles and lots more product and a lot more categories. But I'm not sure that there aren't places, and again, it will depend on the market, where, hey, it might make sense to have and I'll use a fancy word, a concierge who plays a different kind of role in the store. Now, I'm not, like I say, it wouldn't work in every place, in every market. Convenience stores in a high traffic highway type situation probably might not make as much sense. But I think companies should be very careful not to just say, oh, this is a way of saving money on labor, in part because you may not, if you can't do it as well as Amazon, those people who you have working for you may actually serve as a differential advantage. I want to go there because they got a great guy working for them that is always going to help me solve my problems.
Amen. Kevin, thank you so much for talking about the future. And if you want to subscribe to Morning News Beat, it's a great look at the future, talking about trends. And it's also feedback right in there. It's very interactive. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kevin.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thanks.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. For more information about the National Association of Convenience Stores, go to nacsonline.com.